It's Wednesday and it's just 3:00. Now we begin with the situation that demands both attention and action. That's female genital mutilation. For millions of girls and women, this is not just a distant issue, but a lived reality often hidden behind culture, silence, and deeply rooted tradition. Yet across communities, voices are growing louder, challenging long-held beliefs and calling for an end to a practice that has lasted physical and emotional consequences. From going beyond the statistics to examining the human impact, the urgency of protection and the collective responsibility to safeguard the well-being and dignity of every girl will turn our attention to an inspiring young woman who has not only earned a first-class degree, but has also broken a 25-year academic record, proving that excellence knows no limits when determination meets opportunity. Now, her achievement is more than personal. It is a reminder of what is possible when resilience, discipline, and ambition come together. Two very different stories, yet both centered on the future of young women. One about the urgent need to protect it, the other about the extraordinary heights it can reach. This is Just Syrian. Thank you for joining us.
Now, I know that Lolo, for one, is excited to have a feel-good story to get into this week. Because after the conversations we had on Monday and Tuesday, we need a break. But before that, female genital mutilation, FGM, remains widespread in Nigeria. With an estimated 19.9 million survivors, Nigeria accounts for the third highest number of women and girls who have undergone FGM worldwide. As Nigeria joined the rest of the world to mark International Day for Zero Tolerance to Female Genital Mutilation, advocates emphasize the importance of this day to survivors and the entire country. News Central's Omolola Ololade has this special report.
Passion stemmed from the fact that you're a survivor. And then my question now will be, when exactly did you realize you were cut?
Melanie is a journalist and an advocate of female genital mutilation. This mother of three never realized she had been cut until her research work as a journalist revealed that she had actually gone through FGM as a child. News Central visited Melanie's home where she shared her experience.
I have to constantly remember the flashes of that, because I can assure you, for your two legs to be thrown wide open, held apart, and you held down maybe on the chest or on your arms, imagine it. Create this picture in your head and figure out what was done before your vulva is then exposed. I mean, look at the undignifying process that all of this thing has been. And then somebody now takes a pound of flesh that doesn't belong to them and then cut it off. Your flesh is cut off without your consent, right? And then it is sold to you as we are doing you a favor, only for you to continue living the rest of your life in pain, agony, shame, partly, and grossly not understanding the full dimension of the hurt.
Female genital mutilation, otherwise known as female circumcision, refers to all procedures involving partial removal or total removal of the female external genitalia or other injury to the female genital organs for non-medical reasons.
We have four major types. The first type is called when the clitoris, which is the major sexual satisfaction or lubrication that provides lubrication during sex, is cut off. That's the type 1. Then when that clitoris is cut off, I'm going to the type 2 now, and the labia minora or the majora, which is the lip or the vulva, is cut. That's the type 2. For the type 3 is a way to narrow the orifice. So this is one of the type that I said can impact significantly on fertility. The orifice where the male will penetrate is closed.
In Nigeria, an estimated 86% of females were cut before the age of 5, while 8% were cut between the ages of 5 and 14, according to UNICEF. FGM is endemic in Nigeria, with the prevalence highest in the southeast with 35%, followed by the southwest with 30%, and lowest in the northeast with 6%, according to UNICEF. Culture stands at the core of any people at all, and in this case, several myths exist to strengthen the practice, which has created a fear factor among its people.
wọ́n ní máa fàyè pé kóyè obìnrin kójú rẹ̀ ọmọ máa gbébì kan kó má máa so mọ́ àwọn ọkùnrin kí kódà gan ẹni tí wọn ò bá dábẹ́rẹ́ gan yóò fẹ́ lè máa so mọ́ àwọn ọkùnrin pé kí wọ́n wá báwọn ṣe pé torí ẹ̀ gan ni wọ́n fi ń dábẹ́ fún àwọn ọmọ pé ìṣekúṣe lẹni tí wọn ò bá dábẹ́ fún ni wọ́n máa ṣe káàkiri.
For the traditional excisers who perform the cut, they believe it's a generational obligation passed down to them by their forefathers.
Ìdí tá a fi kọ́ ni pé àbálọ́rọ̀ àwọn òbí wa bọ́n ṣe ń kọ́ àkọ́kọ́ ní abẹ tá à ń lò òun náà là ń fi ń kọlà fún àwọn èèyàn àlòótọ́ ni àní abẹ kan náà ní olùlà kan gbọ́dọ̀ ní.
Millions of girls have been robbed of their childhood, with many women living with the consequences of a harmful practice such as FGM.
If not because of bearing children, I would have lived men apart, because it's usually very painful, very, very painful. It's at times that you enjoy it, maybe once in a blue moon.
The practice of FGM has no health benefits, as it is deeply harmful to girls and women, both physically and psychologically. The healing process for many of them sometimes takes longer than expected.
These women, they go through pain, swelling, sometimes bleeding, which could be minimal. For recovery, you want to ensure that they recover, they attain full recovery, and then you want to reduce their pain. You want to ensure that they stay away from sexual activity during the process of healing.
Female genital mutilation remains a violation of human rights of girls and women, hence the need to accelerate effort by families, communities, government and non-governmental organizations to achieve a Nigeria safe for girls and women who are finally free from FGM. In Lagos for News Central, Omolola Ololade.
So the International Day for Zero Tolerance against female genital mutilation was on Friday. This special report was to mark that day, but we will also be having a further conversation next week. But ladies, it was important. It was Catherine's face as they showed the implements. I can't even call those implements. They showed the tools of torture.
Yeah.
Rusty blades. We're talking about normal blades that people use to shape their eyebrow. Did you see the knife that they were using? And this is what, and I remember Melanie has been here with us before. Melanie talks about the fact that sometimes when they're doing these things, they don't even clean. They can line up girls back to back and they're just cutting from one to the other to the other.
No care of infection.
No care of infection, no care of spreading anything. And again, we need to emphasize that as the United Nations, UNICEF has said, and the World Health Organization, there is no medical benefit. There's no benefit at all to cutting young girls. They do it as babies, they do it when they're young, they do it when they start their periods, they do it sometimes before they get married. There are no benefits. And we have to stop saying it's something passed down by our forefathers. Can your forefathers not be wrong?
Do you
Is it not time for you to question why your forefathers
Don't
were
just
doing
follow
it?
all motion, no direction. It's something passed down from generation, but there comes a time with the evolution of the world and with how things are moving, you have to pause and think, how beneficial is it to society? Worlds are changed. It's over. This
Look at
when
this.
I first saw this, I paused. My eyes bulged in sockets because I know we talk about this a lot, but we don't really get to see how it is. Now, these are the implements, the tools, tools of mass destruction for a woman, a girl. Take a look at this one, for example.
Is that a sickle?
And you are holding
yes.
You are holding the girl child down or the woman down, and this is without anesthesia or anything. And then there are some women who actually die from bleeding.
So many of them have actually bled to death.
It's the fact that we have cultural practices that we don't question. We don't know the need for it. We just pass it down from generation to generation. And a lot of times, in those times, women died a lot.
Yeah.
They died during this kind of procedure. They died at childbirth. But many of them never investigated. I was just telling you about one of my friends that they just took her away for a while. She came back to school. She was in pain. She was bleeding for like 2 weeks. Because I'm in her room. She was in the hostel. She was bleeding. And when we asked her, she said she went for some traditional rites. In those days, we felt it was something like juju. like maybe she's a voodoo worshiper or something. They had to come and take her back home. She was hospitalized. You know, many times when we look at these things, we don't question. And some of these people, now, their mind is so one-tracked that even when you do tell them that this is wrong, he has no benefit, there is no need for it, they don't really get it. Because some of them, that is the only job they do.
I was going to say that, let me shock you. I remember when we spoke to Melanie a few years ago, and she talked about the fact that even when the government was pushing this, because it has been outlawed, when the government was pushing these people were coming back and saying, you're going to put them out of business. You are thinking about your business. You're thinking about, oh, I have nothing else to do. And you want to continue to cut girls and say that that is the business that you want to live on.
You know,
something that harms
speaking
people.
of the consequences, listen to what the elderly woman actually said.
Yes.
You know, that she has never enjoyed except maybe once in a blue moon. And I actually know of someone like that. In fact, it's just for procreation, right? Yeah. No enjoyment, nothing. You just do what you have to do. And it actually cost her marriage because the husband started to, you know, there was this strain, and it felt as if, you know, she didn't love him and all that.
And he was just constantly pushing himself on her.
I just want people to understand that, right? Our bodies are perfectly made, and every part of our body has its functions.
Yes.
You know, what even scared me the most was where they sew it up. They sew it up.
I saw that
until you're about to get married.
And that's where they open space for women to be able to urinate and menstruate.
Do you know
when you're about to get married, they open it a little. But so you guys
imagine do you think that kind of person has an infection? It can lead to sepsis immediately.
Exactly.
Because there's no outlet.
I don't think you guys were with me when I recently ran into our good friend Dorothy, and we were talking about all these things. There's a place, because she's primarily based in Abuja, and she was talking about the work she was doing. Yes, it was an event I emceed last year, and we're just generally talking. Do you know in this Nigeria, there is a place where whenever the husband is traveling, they sew the wife up?
Huh? Till date?
Till date. She said outside of Abuja, whenever the husband or the man is traveling, they sew the wife's vagina up.
And when he comes back, they're losing it.
Do you know the pain?
What about pain?
I've had children that have had to have
at the end of the day, a woman's pleasure, none of it matters. It is all whatever benefits the man.
But do you know the amount of pain every time she's sewed up?
Along the lines of what this, according to them, was made for.
To curtail women from being promiscuous and flirtatious.
And they will tell you it works in tandem.
But it doesn't work. Even when we spoke to Melanie, a lot of the girls end up being promiscuous.
Of course.
Somehow it leads them to being promiscuous.
But they don't feel anything.
They don't feel anything.
They don't.
And let's not forget the numbers.
For something that will help them feel something. Imagine that a woman, a full-grown adult female, is taking someone to be sewed up
because you're traveling.
Your husband is traveling.
Your husband is traveling.
Do you know, I've had to be sewn 3 times. Do you know the amount of pain? And in our own time, having children, I mean by childbirth, when you have a tear.
A tear.
So I had my first child, and of course, it tore me to oblivion. And so every other child I've had, it has to go that way. And you have to be sewn. And we are even given some sort of local anesthesia. Even though for someone like me, it doesn't work. Look at the pain every time her husband is going. She will bear the pain to be sewed up. She will bear the pain to be opened up and heal. Outside I don't even want to know what the
do they even heal? I don't think they heal. I really do not think they heal.
She said, "Oh yes." I said, "No, you can't be telling me that in 2025." She said, "No, it's a place outside of Abuja that their culture, their custom, their tradition is that when the husband is traveling, they sew the wife up."
And don't travel bad. Did you see the statistics? We talked about it during the break, I think, when when that package was being run, that the percentage from the stats, it's from the southeast, not even the north, because we have the perception that a lot of these things happen in the north. No, but the highest part of all these things, based on statistics, reveals that it comes from the southeast. 35% to be precise is from the southeast, and then, of course, it reduces down. The north is not even there. And this that we're talking about happens outside Abuja. So what are we saying?
That means in these times, we need a lot of education. And sometimes I'm
And the women cannot say no, that they're not.
Don't you remember a story in the newspaper? Maybe it was a decade ago or more. I think I was still in Abuja then, where they wanted to do FGM for a young girl, and the mother carried her and ran.
Yeah, ran. Yeah,
and the
I
mother
think I remember.
It was national.
It was
national news.
news.
And the father's family and his were saying that no, she has to bring the daughter back. That is the only way the family will accept. That is their tradition. That when girls in their family get to a certain age, that she ran and she took it to court. She eventually won it for the daughter, but she had to go into hiding.
Yeah.
Because you want to do FGM on your child.
You know, it's their education to know. A lot of
parents need to protect their children.
Any woman now that is still allowing that, trust me, that means that person is probably just still living under the rock. Because there is no way you will tell me that some news or information has not filtered through. And you know, some of these women have seen the negatives of this. They saw a woman bleed. I'm sure many of them would have seen a woman bleed to death.
They don't care.
They've seen one get very sick. And they'll just think that, you know, they'll just attribute it to some other reason.
Like the risks.
Aside that. They might even say, maybe she's really promiscuous. She must have done something to her husband. That's why this is happening. So we need a lot of more education. I don't think it's something we should get tired of talking about. Because if we still have somewhere like this outside Abuja, Abuja has urbanized, cosmopolitan as the place is. And they still have this kind of practice in a corner.
We will get there ultimately, because I believe so. You can't, listen, guys, if we're taking a look at how things were then and now, things are changing. They have to change. Take a look at, okay, let's bring into focus Jeffrey Epstein. At the point in time, the first time it was like, oh, everything was but somehow attention will be brought back there. And whether you like it or not, this breeze is blowing. You can't hide this kind of heinous act. You cannot do that. You can't continue to do that. And I see that after a while, this will be water under the bridge, because whether we like it or not, we have to put a stop to it. I commend that, and I think more women should be brave enough to stand up
share their story.
and share your story and fight for your child as well. Because we all have daughters. Well,
I have daughters. I have nieces.
Very, very good.
Yeah.
We all have daughters. I can't sit and I can say with my full chest that none of us can actually sit here and see any of our daughters held down and wanting to be FGM'd.
For where?
Especially as babies.
We all die.
Anyway, we need to go on a break. Excellence doesn't happen overnight. It takes patience, perseverance, and dedication to achieve. After the break, we'll be joined by Oyiza Adinoyi, a young woman whose academic journey and a breaking of a 25-year academic record has inspired conversations across Nigeria. Do stay with us. This is interesting.
So just before we get into our conversation, a message came in from our WhatsApp group, and it really just tells us that we have to continue to have the conversations about FGM. I just moved, this is from the general, it says, I just moved to Oyo and was surprised when I saw the FGM is still invoked. My neighbor's eldest daughter just had hers removed over the weekend, and the younger sister is set for hers next weekend. 2 young girls somewhere in Oyo State who are victims of FGM because the beliefs are still being held. We will continue to challenge these beliefs and put it to people's faces. No medical benefits. In fact, the consequences are much worse for young women and girls. It's a conversation we'll continue.
But up next, from surviving Gary nights, a phrase many Nigerian students use to describe going to bed hungry, to rewriting their academic record books, one young woman's story is capturing national attention. And so it should, because Oyiza Adinoyi has achieved what many thought was nearly impossible, graduating with a first class and breaking a 25-year academic record at her institution. That's a record set before she was born. So her journey is not just about intelligence. It's a story of resilience, discipline, and determination in the face of financial hardship. So now we're going beyond the headlines to explore what it truly takes to rise above limitations, what her achievement says about the realities facing Nigerian students, and why stories like this matter at a time when young people are searching for reasons to believe that hard work can still pay off. Because sometimes excellence is not just born from comfort, it is forged through adversity. Oyiza, we are so happy to have you with us here on Jasiri this morning. Welcome to Jasiri.
It's truly humbling, and I'm delighted to be here to have this conversation on a platform like this and with amazing women as yourselves. Thank you so much. I look forward to the conversation.
A little birdie told me that she's been watching Jasiri before now. So we like it. She's out there.
All right, now before the applause and accolades, there was a journey marked by sacrifice. What does it take for a student to stay focused, when resources are scarce and the odds feel overwhelming? Oyiza, take us back to the beginning. What was life like for you as a student navigating financial hardship?
Life was hard because I didn't have anything needed to succeed in school. It was very difficult for me. But one thing that always stood out for me was that my mom taught me how to do intentional targeting. So I had this goal of coming out with excellence, irrespective of the challenges that I face and whatsoever that I may have to face head on in school. So while I was in school, I just had one thing that guided me throughout, and that was I cannot mess up, because this is the only option I have to succeed at life.
So the phrase Gari nights, I think it resonates with many Nigerians. Those nights where there's nothing but Gari available and you have to take it, you mize it as well. How did those difficult moments shape your mindset? Was there really ever a point you considered giving up? Because we'll get further into it, but you entered school and it was financial difficulties. You were even delayed in entering university as well. So when you're having these Gari nights, when you're having these days, when you're stretching 2,000, 3,000 naira as far as you can make it, did you ever feel like giving up?
Yes, there were actually moments that I felt like I can't continue this, because going into school and getting admission at first was just a leap of faith that my parents took. Wow. And like I said in some news, my parents had to take on LAPO loan for me to be able to pay off my foundational fees. So while in school, it was really, really tough for me. It was very tough for me. And some moments, like you said, I would just use hunger to adapt to the current lifestyle that I was in while in school. So when I'm hungry, I would just pick up a book. It's just like when you're hungry and then you pick up a movie, you keep watching the movie season by season, and you won't get hungry until you're done. So that's how I just had to adapt to it, because I can't go back home. I have to be here. I can't go back home. So that was just what made that moment for me.
Oh, it's very interesting. A lot of people from the beginning, they set a goal. They want to just achieve this. Were you aiming for a first class from the beginning, or were you just trying to graduate respectfully? Because there are some times that you just get to something, but that wasn't the end goal. The end goal is, God, let me just graduate respectfully and not bring shame. So tell me, what was it from the get-go?
For me, initially, when I got the admission offer, it wasn't that I was going to become a first-class student or even emerge as the overall best graduated student. All I wanted was, I want to make the best out of the opportunity that I've been given. And the 3 years that I used, that I spent alone at home without going to the university after my secondary school graduation, I used that moment to learn more about history. My father is somebody that loves talking about our past, my community's past, this past. So I got really passionate about what history entails. And during that 3 years, I learned that history gives us that ability to understand who we are and where we've come from. So getting into the university, I just wanted to be the best of my own self, not as a first class. But I think it was on the third week of resumption that we had tutorials with senior students. And then they began to tell us that there was a first class in my department and she was a woman. And the second first class was equally a girl. And but it's very difficult for any student to emerge as a first class in history. And that I took it as a challenge. When I got back home, I sat down and then I wrote it down. I'm not just going to do well in this department for myself. I'm equally going to make sure that when they are also calling people that have gotten first class, I should be part of it. And that's how it just moved from there. The very first semester in 100 level, I had a 5.0, and it began to sound very real to me that yes, the dream.
Yeah. Wow, 5.0. What were you doing in your university?
Okay, Oyiza, let's look back now on the ladder of sacrifice that you had. Let's talk about, let's take a moment and just think about briefly which one of the sacrifices for you was the hardest, yet was the most defining.
Okay, one of the sacrifice, actually there were many sacrifices that went to be able to be at where I am right now. But one of the major sacrifices was that my parents, despite retiring from their job at the time that I gained admission into the university, they remained resilient and said, Rhoda, you're going to go to school no matter what it takes us. So that major sacrifice, like I said, they gave me, they took LAPO loans for my studies. And while I was in school, every single week, they pay back those loans with interest. And when I'm in school, I usually think about it and I'm like, if my parents are not eating very well right now, just to see me through school, then I have no other thing than to ensure that every single week that they are paying that LAPO money, I am equally contributing greatly to my academics and making the most out of it. So for me, the sacrifice of my parents remains the major highlight for me in my undergraduate studies.
So interesting enough, when I was reading up about you, beyond financial hardship, you also faced social and academic challenges as a young woman in a largely male-dominated department. You studied history and international relations, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So while serving as course coordinator, you encountered resistance from some male colleagues who viewed your leadership as a challenge, as well as criticism from a few of your female peers. Oyiza, tell us about that. What exactly was their issue?
And don't leave anything else.
Don't leave anything I want to hear. If you want to mention names, you can call names, but it's okay. So records stand for decades because they're difficult to break. But our guest today is not only a record breaker, she's also a record setter. Oyiza Adinoyi emerged as a first-class graduate of History and International Studies with a 4.93 CGPA at Prince Abubakar Audu University, breaking a 25-year academic record in her department. She achieved this feat before the age of 23, defying poverty, delayed access to higher education, and the challenge of studying in a male-dominated male-dominated academic environment. And she joins us today to share her inspiring journey. Now, Oyiza, before we had that break, we apologize, a bit of a technical issue there. I was asking you about your experience as a course leader, a course coordinator, and the resistance you got from some of your male colleagues, and also some of the criticism you got from some of your female peers as well. We want you to tell us about that.
100 level. So the Vice Chancellor had cancelled anything called class representation. So there was nothing like that. But what was in place was course coordinator, where you can be like a middleman between the lecturer and the students, and in helping passing information from the lecturer to students and vice versa. So I happened to be among the very first people that were screened in my department, and that duty just came naturally on me. So I wasn't elected, it just came to me. I was just appointed to coordinate the students and to ensure that we start our lectures successfully. But in 100 level, and even through to 400 level, you'll find some of my male classmates, not all of them, but some of them, they just feel threatened by seeing a woman leading in a class and giving information. And she's not just leading in terms of leadership, she's equally leading academically. So I saw that hatred, I will call it hatred in some way, or probably some jealousy from them. And they just felt, why should it be a woman to lead a class? One particular student met me one day and said, my brother wants me to become the SUG president. And for me to be able to attain that, I have to start from the class. And that I'm the one obstructing him not to be able to attain that goal. So, and it just came with a lot of threats at some point where they would publicly insult me, even class groups and everything. But one thing that I held esteem to myself is the position was just given to me. I wasn't elected for it. I'm just doing it as a service, as a volunteering is what I call it. And my academic excellence, my academic goal is not something that I'm willing to negotiate with anybody. So even when they mention that, oh, because she's a high student, a grade A student, I do not think about it at all. I just remain focused on the goal I've set before myself, because I am not in competition with anybody but myself. And for the females, yes, as it is, we often believe that not all females support women, and the women supporting women theory is not always true. And but I'm grateful for the little cycle of friends that I had in my class that stood by me and supported me, celebrated me when I win, and encouraged me when there are struggles that I face and everything like that. So,
yeah, I like that you mentioned support system, because you gave up social activities. I hear you also gave up holidays. You're better than me. You gave up holidays to study. So let's talk about your support system. Who were your biggest supporters on this journey? And I would love for you to name them. Let them know that you continue to celebrate them and honor them for their role that they've played with you.
Yes. Thank you so much for that question. Actually, I have mentors. Yeah, but one major mentor stood out for me because he ensured that I gained not just the classroom experience, but also practical exposure in terms of participating in conferences, publishing my paper, and I recently published a paper and a book review also. So, and that mentor of mine is Dr. Danladi Abba. He has been such an amazing man. And unlike other narratives that we used to hear from universities about how not so a female student should have a close relationship with a lecturer, he is very different. I was very skeptical at first when I wanted to approach him for mentorship, but I was glad I made that decision because I am now a member of the Lagos Studies Association conference because of him. And through that conference, I've been able to meet even many more people that are now my mentors outside the school environment. And another support system is the parents have been there for me. And aside the financial help that they provided, they equally prayed, encouraged me, and told me so many things, so many words of encouragement that I should keep on going. They're seeing my effort and I shouldn't back down. And that words of encouragement really held me throughout my studies. I also want to acknowledge my friends, Sarah Gideon, Mary Gideon, Rebecca, Nafisat, and so many of them that I can't mention them right now. They have been there for me. They supported me. And when my results come out with straight A's, they are the first person to say, hey, Rhoda, you have a 5.0, congratulations. And we just celebrate it together. So these are actually support systems that I got that sustained me. And it's something that I would encourage every student to, in their various universities, to ensure that they request for mentorship if there is none available, and they should be very careful in selecting their friends. They should select friends that are there for them and would encourage them to become better versions of themselves. Thank
you. Rhoda, I'm almost clapping for you like this, yes, because our stories are, I have a burden. There's just something that connects us. Maybe after this interview, I will tell you. Anyway, looking at a young person achieve at 23, I have to ask you, because a lot of people watch the show and they want to take a learning curve. They want it to be a learning curve for them. What would you say separated you from the rest of your peers? Because some people will see, a first class and best overall student. They rarely see the routine that led to these accolades. And those are the things that the keys that you use to unlock some of these achievements that you have. Would you say that it was your personal discipline? Because I've seen people that are not so brilliant, but they are disciplined and very dedicated, and they achieved some kind of big success. Some have natural brilliance. Let's approach it from all sides. would you say is your personal discipline or your natural brilliance or your approach to studies is just different from the rest of your peers? You know, walk us through like a typical day for you back then from morning till night so that some students that are watching Jasiri too, they can take, you know, some takeaways from inspiration from you.
Okay, thank you so much for that question. Actually, in my case, I wouldn't say it's all about natural brilliancy. Neither will I say it's about discipline. Like you said, many people have discipline, but it may not really show in terms of academic excellence. But for me, it has always been about intentionality and focus. So before I got to the university, I had known the course I want to study. I had read about it, and I had developed love for it even before the classroom lectures began. So I think that's just one major thing that really prepared me for the rigorous work of being a history student. History is not something that is very easy. It requires critical thinking, engagement, and also writing. You have to write voluminously in history for a lecturer to even consider marking your script well. It's just like that. So, but I had always had this nature from childhood that my parents always told me about, and it also became a source of encouragement for me during my studies. And that's that when I began my primary school, I would go to school and come back and not eat whatever was given to me to school. And when I come back home, I would do my assignment first before considering eating or playing.
Wow.
So when I got to the university, and then I realized that history is not a play job. It's something that requires a lot of time and sacrifice. Yeah. I decided to take a little strategy from my childhood. So I took my time to studying. So for me, I think if a student puts in a structured effort to study, definitely the student is going to attain excellence. For me, I don't know how to wake up late at night. I can read from 8 p.m. to 12, but I can wake up from as early as 1 a.m. studying. And I do not just rely on the lecture notes or the jotting I took from when a lecturer was giving his lectures in class. I go back home and I look at the course outline. I take them one by one as if they're a topic on their own. And then I research about them online. I think about it myself and then have a special note where I just form my own notes, which is a combination of my own understanding, the lecturer's dictation, and the researches I got online. Yeah. And that would become my note for tests and exams that I just read and reverse and then go to exam hall and write. And face any question that comes my way. So I think students can gain excellence when they are really intentional about their goal and the need for them to become excellent in that way. During my 200 level, a student told me, oh, I'm already maintaining a good CGPA, so I'm going to relax right now to the end of my study. There's no way the CGPA is going to reduce. But for me, I never thought like that because a B to me is something as terrible as having an F. It's just as terrible as that. The first day the first result was my second semester 100 level. Yeah. When I had my first B, I cried. I almost fell into depression. That was how I didn't see anything outside A to be a success. So I always aim for A throughout my studies.
Wow. Oyiza, it's so easy and it's easy to listen to you talk. I have the next question to ask you, but just stay with us for a little while. Let's quickly go on a break. We'll be right back, guys. This is Jasiri. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Jasiri. On the home stretch now, Oyiza is our guest. She's standing by. She is the student that scored the perfect GPAs in 5 semesters. She was on a constant and she was on a roll. So Oyiza, thank you so much for staying with us still on Jasiri. Right, let me just go straight into my question, Oyiza. First, university graduate in your family, your journey to higher education was delayed by 3 years after secondary school due to, of course, financial constraints. So I read that sometimes you survived on as little as 15K for
You
a
didn't say that
semester.
well. You didn't say 15,000 naira.
15,000
Say well.
naira per semester.
And you're there
cannot
shaking your head,
see.
yes.
I cannot, 15,000 naira. How did you do it? Did you ever feel isolated because you were so focused on your studies? Did you ever feel like you were missing out? Look at your course mate that said, oh, now, you know, second semester I can now chill. Did you ever feel isolated, misunderstood because of how focused you were on your studies?
Yes, thank you so much. It's very true. I survived in some semesters for with just 15,000 naira, and it's one of the things I look back and just thank God and be grateful to God for helping me survive that moment. So yes, of course, it made me feel, I actually felt isolated in many cases, but I think that isolation, that kind of feeling ended when I got to, when I started my 300 level. And then I began to see the result of the hard work that is really paid. I'm going to be on a first class. I'm going to graduate on first class. So that end result just became my motivation for me not to look at what I have and the struggles I'm facing. So yes, I felt isolated. I had roommates. I actually had roommates, and I had course mates that every semester they come in with new dresses. They're living well. They are actually living very large, as we used to say to Nigeria. So all I needed for myself was I kept motivating myself that I may not have the resources to live extravagantly right now in this school, but certainly when I finally attain the kind of results I want to have, then in the future I'm going to have everything I think I missed out in school. So that was one thing that kept me true, and I have this mantra that sustained me, and it's still something I'm still looking every morning and reminding myself of it, because graduating as a valedictorian of my institution is just one success of the many goals I have in life.
Wow.
So and that is, dear young person, I cannot mess up. I have to succeed. I must succeed, and I will succeed. So I used to tell myself this every morning, and it's just something that doesn't make me start to think, oh, my other classmates are enjoying and I'm not. And another thing I think was helped me through is contentment. My family taught me how to be content in the little I have, even in emptiness, to be content. So that's really helped me.
Oyiza, I feel like we need to talk to your parents.
Yes,
because this last point you've made about contentment, what you've also described is delayed gratification.
Yes.
And then you made the point of contentment, being content where you are. Not to say that you're okay to stay there, but in that present situation, you manage it and then you look for the future. But I quickly want to ask, because Lola has a question. How do you spread 15K? For three, is it a semester is about 3 months around?
Yeah.
How do you spread 15K for 3 months? Oyiza, please explain.
Yes, it sounds very, very strange when somebody hears that I actually survived on 15K. Well, coming to school, my parents would try as much as possible to get me some basic food stuff, like gari, amala, that's the flour for amala, and then some soup items and rice and beans, and just in moderate portions. So when I get to school, I will now do a timetable of the food I have with me that I brought from home, and then do a financial planning of what I'm going to spend per week, what I'm going to spend per month. And if God willing, a friend decide to say, oh, brother, have this 1,000 naira, it's like a big blessing to me. And another thing was I had to pay for my water, because it's the this house of people that sell water. So I had to pay for water. Yes, marijuana. And I also had to pay for light.
Within that
So
15K?
Yes, there was no constant light. So what I do is there are cyber cafes all around. I have charging centers in them. So I think to charge a device then was 100 naira. And then to buy Merua gradually increased from 30 naira to 50 naira, I think up to 100 naira at the point of graduation. So instead of me taking a bike to school, I would trek to school. Then if there's going to be enough time in between lectures, then I would just take my laptop and my phone or any other thing I need to charge. I take it to the school library and then I charge it there. So I oftentimes do not use the charging centers most of the time. Then for water, that's just where the problem to use water, and I also had to manage how I use water. But irrespective of the 15K, there were also some little help here and there from friends, from classmates, and I really, really appreciate everything that they did.
Wow, very, very inspiring. Very, very inspiring. Anyway, I know that great achievements don't change one's life. They challenge a generation to think bigger. So what comes after rewriting the record books? Because a lot of people do not know that when you achieve a feat, it's more of a burden. Yes, the good sides are there, but the child is as if you have raised the bar for yourself and you have to beat your own record. So that's one side. So Oyiza, when you told your parents that you were going to be a valedictorian, what was their reaction? Praise the Lord. That's mommy, I want to use that word. What was their reaction really?
My parents are people that are always very expressive of their emotion, and just as you demonstrated, you got it right. That was just how my mom screaming and thanking God. And every service that we attended, any Christian gathering that we go to, my mom will stand up and say, I have a Thanksgiving. So she would come out on the stage and be like, my daughter, I trained her through school, through LAPO loans, and she's here not just as a graduate, not just as a first-class graduate, but as the overall best of her institution. So even till today, till this very morning, my mom will be like, my professor. That's the new title.
Yes. Speaking of your mom
my
calling
professor.
you professor, what are your next goals? Academia, career, future studies? What's it?
My goal right now is to focus on scholarship and research and impart. I intend to pursue a graduate study and specialize in African history.
Hey, hold on. We need to clap for that.
Oh, you are so spot on.
Continue.
My particular interest or curiosity is on women experiences, social change, and also underdocumented histories of Nigeria, of West Africa, and of Africa in general. So I want my work to contribute to in understanding Africa, not just academically, but also socially and globally. So my next goal right now is to advance into a graduate study, probably master's, and then proceed to PhD so that I can be in a better position, not just to research about Africa, not just to document about our history, but also to be able to lecture and tutor younger scholars that are coming up.
Wow. Okay, we have to
Claire.
Lolo, just stick to it.
I'm so inspired.
Oh my
Oyiza, you are absolutely amazing. Yes. And we on this table are so proud of you, especially hearing about your journey and even the future that you have planned for yourself. We are so rooting for you. And when all these boxes are ticked, trust me, these girls are here to celebrate with you. Thank you very much for being on the show with us.
Parents.
And say, mommy, we love you. Yes, so
you have an open invitation.
Anytime you're in Lagos, just hit us up. We'd like to see you physically. And I will collect your number because we have to chat. We have to have a tete-a-tete. Oh,
Thank you so much.
thank you so much, Oyiza. We appreciate you.
Wow.
Wow, what a day. What an inspiration.
We'll talk about it in the makeup room.
Yeah.
All right. Well, today we've actually told you two very different stories, yet at their core, they're deeply connected. One is a story of harm that must end, and that's female genital mutilation, which continues to rob girls of safety, dignity, and choice, often long before they're old enough to dream of their futures. And the other is a story of what becomes possible when a girl is allowed to grow, to learn, and to believe, and also to believe. So from Gary Nights to breaking a 25-year-old academic record.
Older than her.
Older than her, absolutely. Oyiza Adinoyi's journey is proof of the extraordinary potential that exists when resilience meets opportunity. Together, these stories force us to confront an important truth. You cannot celebrate excellence while ignoring the systems that endanger girls. So protecting girls is not just about preventing harm, it is about preserving futures. It is about ensuring that every girl has the chance to sit in a classroom, chase ambition, and define success, on her own terms. Because the next record breaker, innovator, or leader may already be among us. Our job is to make sure she is safe, supported, and seen. So with that, it is a wrap on Just Siri today. We will see you tomorrow.
Good news day.